Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to really zoom in on a specific corner of the world, the real estate market up in Mammoth Lakes, California.
Hmm.
We've got this fresh market update report. It's from June 2025, right in front of us.
Yeah.
And our mission today is pretty simple. We're going to unpack this thing together, pull out the most important insights, the real nugget.
Yeah, the key takeaways.
Exactly. And figure out what they actually mean for you right now. Think of this as like your shortcut to understanding the pulse of this unique mountain market without getting totally lost in the weeds.
And, diving into data that's this specific, this local,
Yeah,
it's absolutely essential.
right.
General real estate trends you hear about nationally, even statewide, they just don't capture the whole picture for a market like Mammoth Lakes.
No way.
It's got its own dynamics, right? Its own
Okay.
supply and demand story playing out. So our goal isn't just to read you the numbers from this report.
Right.
It's to help you understand the narrative they're creating about the market right now, June 2025.
Okay, let's start with that overall view the report gives. It mentions Mammoth Lakes kicked off 2025, sitting in what it calls a balanced housing market.
Right. And when this report talks about a balanced market, it means pretty much what you'd expect. Supply and demand are relatively even.
Okay.
The report puts that balance point at around a 4-month supply of inventory.
4 months.
Yeah, meaning if no new homes came on the market, it'd take about 4 months to sell everything listed, just based on the current pace. It's that sweet spot.
Not heavily favoring buyers or sellers.
Exactly.
But markets, well, they're rarely static, are they?
No.
The report immediately highlights shifts happening, especially with inventory. Condo inventory, for instance, saw a noticeable bump up,
Mm-hmm.
about 20% increase starting back in April, and it's held pretty steady since then.
That's right. And interestingly, the report notes that even with that increase, the condo market didn't swing wildly. It stayed balanced.
Okay, so that's condos.
That's one side. The other side, single-family homes, saw a much more, dramatic shift in inventory.
Yeah, okay.
While condo inventory edged up earlier, single-family home listings, they stayed pretty flat through April. But then in May, inventory for SFHs just jumped.
How much?
The report puts it at a significant 57%.
Wow, 57%.
Yeah. And this specific increase is what moved the single-family home category, according to this report, from seller's market territory firmly into that balanced market category with condos.
Okay, that's a big shift.
That jump is a really critical piece of information because it changes the whole feel of the market if you're looking to buy or sell a house there.
And despite these pretty notable inventory shifts, the report adds that overall pricing, it stayed relatively stable.
Yeah.
And negotiations seem to be happening with what it calls reasonable expectations.
Yeah.
So maybe not those intense bidding wars we saw.
Exactly. Not the peak frenzy, but also not a situation where prices are just collapsing. The fact that prices aren't seeing a sharp downturn, even with more inventory, suggests that, while there's more choice for buyers, there's still enough underlying demand to prevent a big price correction.
Makes sense.
The market's adjusting more through, supply levels and how negotiations are playing out rather than just big price drops.
Okay, let's zoom in on condos specifically then. What does this report tell us about sales activity? How many were actually, selling?
Okay, looking at the numbers.
Mhm.
The report states Mammoth Lakes saw 243 condo sales in the full year of 2024,
Okay.
which averages out to about 20.25 sales per month.
20 a month, roughly.
Yeah. Compare that to 2025. Through May, there have been 93 condo sales.
Mhm.
Over 5 months, that's an average of about 18.6 sales per month.
So a slight dip then.
Just a slight dip in the monthly sales pace compared to last year. Yeah.
Now let's talk condo prices, because the report has a median price number here that honestly at first glance looks pretty striking.
Yes. This is where digging into the data really reveals something critical. The report states the median price for condos sold in 2024 was $725,000.
Right.
But through May of 2025, that median price is listed as $849,000.
Whoa, that looks like a huge jump year over year.
It does. But here's the crucial nuance the report provides. It breaks down that median.
Ah,
The median for resale condos sold in 2025 is $745,000.
okay, that's only a modest increase.
Right, only slightly up from the previous year. But the median for new construction condos sold, a staggering $2,172,500.
Wow. over 2 million for the median new construction condos.
Exactly. So that overall median of 849K,
Yeah.
it isn't telling you that your existing condo magically appreciated by 17% or whatever.
That's all.
It's heavily skewed upwards by a relatively small number of very high-priced new units selling. That's a key takeaway. Really changes how you interpret that first number.
That makes a huge difference. And it also makes me wonder about how long condos are sitting on the market, the days on market, or DOM. What does the report say about that? And does that new construction factor mess with those numbers too?
It absolutely does. So the report shows the overall average days on market, the time from lifting to going under contract was actually slightly lower in 2025 so far.
Lower. Okay.
Yeah, 69 days compared to 72 days in 2024. So on the surface, you'd think things seem faster.
Right.
However, just like with price, that number is heavily skewed by those new construction sales.
Ah, there it is.
The report explicitly notes that resale condos are actually selling much, much faster. You're averaging just 61 days on market.
61 days for resales.
Yeah. Those really high-priced new construction units, the ones pulling up the average price, they're taking an average of 354 days to sell.
Wait, 354. So existing condos are selling in about 2 months.
Yep.
But the brand new ones are taking basically a full year.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That nuance is just fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It tells you that if you're looking at buying or selling an existing condo, your experience with how long it sits is going to be vastly different than what that overall average suggests, all because of the influence of those slower-moving, super high-end new developments.
Okay, so existing condos are actually moving fairly quickly. What's the current picture for overall condo inventory then, as of June 1st?
As of June 1st, 2025, the report shows 89 active condo listings on the market.
89.
Yeah. And there are also 29 pending sales. And notably, 7 of those pending sales are for new construction units.
Okay.
The report confirms that this active inventory number, the 89, is up compared to this time last year.
Right, which keeps it balanced.
Exactly. Which is why the market remains balanced, currently sitting at about a 5-month supply based on that sales pace we talked about.
And the report breaks down that condo supply by price point too, right? Which I imagine shows even more of those nuances. What does that breakdown reveal? Where's the demand strongest or weakest?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
This is where you see the market microclimates, really.
Oh.
The report indicates that condos under $1 million, they're in a balanced market. About a 3 to 5 month supply. Pretty standard.
Right.
As you move up to luxury condos, between $1 million and $2 million, the market slows down quite a bit. Shows a longer supply, like 7 to 9 months.
Okay, slower there.
But then, here's another interesting slip. Ultra-luxury condos, priced over $2 million.
Yeah.
High demand. The report notes a very low supply there, somewhere between 1 and 2 months supply, depending on exactly which chart you're looking at in the report.
Wow, so super tight at the very top end.
Yeah. This breakdown is a great illustration that the overall balanced market label for condos really masks very different dynamics depending on the price tag.
That's incredibly specific and, frankly, really helpful information. Okay, let's switch gears then to single-family homes, SFH. You mentioned the inventory jump there was more dramatic than for condos. What does the report say about SFH sales numbers?
Right. So for single-family homes, 58 were sold in all of 2024.
58 total.
Yeah, averaging about 4.8 per month. Through May of 2025, there have been 29 sales.
Okay.
Now, if you average that over 5 months, it's 5.8 sales per month.
Oh, interesting. So unlike condos, which dipped slightly,
Exactly.
SFHs actually saw a slight increase in the monthly average sales pace compared to last year.
That's right. A little bit of an uptick there.
And what about SFH prices? Did they see a similar kind of skewed jump like the overall condo median?
No, it looks more straightforward here. The median price for single-family homes in 2024 was $1,300,000.
Okay, 1.3 million.
Through May 2025, the median price is reported as $1,387,500.
So up, but not that crazy new construction effect.
Exactly. An increase year over year, yes, but not that dramatic skewed jump we saw in the overall condo median. This looks like a more typical increase in the resale market.
Okay. Now this brings us to days on market for single-family homes, which you highlighted earlier as a really big number in this report. What is happening there?
Yeah, this is maybe the most significant change in the SFH market that the report captures. While overall condo DOM went down, even though it was skewed, single-family homes saw their average days on market dramatically increase.
How much?
It went from 73 days in 2024 to a substantial 132 days through May 2025.
Whoa, 132 days? That's almost twice as long in the market on average.
It really is. That's a massive shift in pace for houses.
Wow. Okay. Nearly doubling the time it takes to sell a house. Where does current SFH inventory stand as of June 1st, and how does that connect to this longer DOM?
So as of June 1st, 2025, the report shows 22 active single-family homes for sale.
22.
That's up from 14 just the month before in May.
Okay, quite a jump in 1 month.
Yeah. And there are also 9 pending sales.
Mm.
The report points out that while 22 is still, below historical inventory levels for Mammoth,
Right.
it represents the highest number of active SFH listings we've seen so far in 2025.
Got it.
And this increase, particularly that 57% jump in May we talked about, is directly contributing to moving the SFH market into balanced territory, now at a 4-month supply. And it almost certainly plays a significant role in that increased days on market number.
Makes sense. More homes available means buyers have more options.
Exactly.
And homes might take longer to sell unless they're priced, like, super aggressively.
Precisely.
Okay, it makes sense that more inventory would contribute to homes taking longer. Where is the buyer activity concentrated within the SFH market then? According to the report, are certain price points moving faster than others, like we saw with condos?
Yes, we see similar segmentation here too, though maybe not quite as extreme as that ultra-luxury condo tier.
Okay.
The report states that buyer activity for single-family homes is primarily focused in the $1 million plus range.
Okay, over a million.
Yeah, and it breaks down the supply levels within those higher brackets. The $1.5 million to $2 million segment, that's described as the hottest.
Hottest, meaning tight supply.
Yeah, lower supply. Just 3 months reported there. And the report also notes in its key takeaways that the $1 million to $1.5 million range is highly competitive, with an even tighter 2 months of supply.
2 months, wow.
Yeah, and then homes over $2 million also show healthy demand with a 5-month supply.
Okay.
So what's fascinating here is seeing how, even within SFH, the demand intensity shifts dramatically based on the price point. That balanced market label for SFH overall doesn't fully capture how active things seem in those sub-$2 million segments.
Right, so balanced overall, but definitely some hotter pockets within that.
Exactly.
Okay, beyond the specific property types, the report touches on some broader factors influencing the market. Interest rates, of course, are always a huge one. What does the report say about where rates are now and maybe where they're heading?
Yeah, always key. The report gives specific interest rate data as of June 1st. Prevailing conforming 30-year fixed, around 6.95%.
Okay, just under 7.
And the jumbo rate, which is relevant for a lot of these higher-priced Mammoth properties, was around 7.06%.
Right.
The report does note that the average rate in May was slightly lower, around 6.89%. But what's really key here is the outlook the report provides.
And what does that look suggest? Any relief on the horizon for buyers?
Well, the forecast in the report suggests the potential for gradual decreases in interest rates.
Okay.
The expectation mentioned is for rates to settle closer to 6.3% by the end of 2025.
6.3. So a noticeable dip if that happens.
Yeah. So while we're hovering near 7% now, there's a possibility, based on this report's forecast anyway, for rates to tick down modestly over the next 6 months or so.
Okay. The report also suggests that given this rate environment, buyers and sellers might be using some creative strategies.
Yes, it touches on this. It mentions things like temporary rate buydowns.
Right, where the seller pays points.
Exactly. Where a seller or maybe a builder pays to lower the buyer's initial interest rate for the first few years. It also mentions seller concessions. Sellers contributing towards closing costs or other buyer expenses to help make the deal work. And apparently some lender programs that offer to cover refinance closing costs if rates drop significantly later on.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the report kind of frames these as ways the market is adapting to help bridge that affordability gap created by these higher rates compared to, say, a couple of years ago.
Right. Another major external factor mentioned, and this is particularly relevant in a place like Mammoth Lakes, is insurance, especially homeowners insurance in California's wildfire-prone area.
Oh, yeah. This is such a critical point right now. It needs to be considered really early in any transaction.
Definitely.
The report highlights the ongoing challenges in California's homeowners insurance market, specifically impacting areas like Mammoth. It points to, rising premiums, much stricter requirements from insurers,
Yeah.
and the fact that some major insurers have just paused or stopped writing new policies altogether in certain areas.
It's huge.
It is. So the absolutely crucial recommendation from the report here is that researching and securing your insurance options, That needs to be a very early step in the buying process, like even before you make an offer.
Wow, before the offer.
Yeah, because it's become a significant hurdle for some buyers.
Hmm.
You don't want to get halfway through a deal and find out you can't get insured or the cost is prohibitive.
Okay, let's try and pull all these threads together for you, our listener. We've seen inventory increase in both condos and single-family homes,
Right.
moving both categories into what this report calls a balanced market as of June 2025.
Hmm.
But within that balanced label, we saw some big differences. SFH days on market have stretched out significantly,
A lot.
while overall condo dom looks lower but is heavily influenced by that slower moving new construction. Resale condos are actually moving much faster.
Yeah, quite fast.
Prices year over year are up for both, though that overall condo median is significantly skewed by those high-end new sales.
Very skewed.
Interest rates, currently around 6.97%, with the report forecasting potential modest dips maybe towards the end of the year.
Fingers crossed on that one.
And navigating the homeowner's insurance market,
Right?
that's become a really critical early step.
Absolutely crucial now.
Yeah, okay.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this report really shows Mammoth Lakes is operating with some very specific micro trends,
Yeah.
things that aren't immediately obvious from just a high-level summary. The data makes it clear that different price segments within both condos and single-family homes are behaving quite differently
Right.
in terms of supply, demand, the pace of sales.
Yeah.
Knowing these specific dynamics, like the difference in speed between a $700 K condo resale and a $2 on new build,
Huge difference.
or the tight supply for SFHs between $1 and $2, the impact of those inventory jumps on DOM. It allows you to understand the market in a much more nuanced way than just hearing, oh, Mammoth Lakes is a balanced market. It really raises an important question for you. How does understanding these specific details change your perspective on the opportunities or the challenges in this market compared to someone who only knows the general headlines?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, after diving into this report, what does all this detailed data really mean for you as you think about the Mammoth Lakes market?
Well, the report itself kind of highlights that navigating a market with such distinct segments and these external factors like the insurance challenges, it really benefits from expertise and having a clear strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So building on the data we've explored today,
Yeah.
the varied pace of sales across different price tiers, that significant impact of new construction on the condo stats, the lengthening DOM for houses, the role of interest rates, the hurdles of insurance.
Yeah, all of that.
Here's maybe a final provocative thought for you to consider. In a market that behaves so differently, depending on the specific property type and price point you're actually interested in, and with external factors like insurance now playing such a major role, how much does having truly detailed segment-specific knowledge influence the timing and the strategy of your real estate transaction compared to just reacting to the overall market label? Think about how understanding these granular details might shape your approach.